Today's topic is Azure VPN Gateway. In today's video, we will try to understand the concept of Azure VPN Gateway, what it is, why we need it, what are the features, what are the things that we should keep in mind, and everything related to VPN Gateway. And if possible, we'll try to complete it in today's video or one more video tomorrow with a proper scenario and the configuration or the portal as well. So what is Azure VPN Gateway? To understand this, what it is, we just need to put things in perspective. Okay, so let's try do that. Let's suppose we have a virtual network right here. Okay, this is our Azure Virtual Network, VNet. And we do have our on-premises environment. This is our on-prem environment. Okay, and we might have a couple of remote users. Let's call them remote users. Okay, people working from home. All right, these are remote users. All right, we have done a lot of videos on connectivity in previous videos. Now the point is, if we need to connect our own premises with Azure Virtual Network, and Azure Virtual Network is a private space that we have with the help of side range in Azure. On premises is physically isolated somewhere where we have private space. Now we need to connect these virtual network of on premises with the Azure Virtual Network. So we need something who can talk to on premises information coming from the on premises router or firewall in Azure. Okay. Moreover, if it is a VPN, okay, it could be VPN, it could be a dedicated line, and VPN gateway is required for both. So if it is a over the internet, then it would be VPN tunnel. Okay, so in that situation, we need something here on the Azure Virtual Network which can encrypt and decrypt the data coming from the on-premises over the internet inside a private tunnel, secure tunnel. Okay, so that thing, that gateway, which will receive the traffic, decrypt the traffic, and forward it. And similarly, while sending the traffic, it will encrypt the traffic so that it will go over the encrypted tunnel. Okay, this is VPN tunnel. So data is coming and going in an encrypted form so that it would be safe and safer from eavesdropping. So to create this VPN tunnel, we need something here that is called a gateway. Okay, that is called a gateway. And to deploy a gateway, we need a dedicated subnet on which we will deploy it. Why we need subnet? Because at the back end, it is deploying virtual machines, one or more than one virtual machines, where it is we don't have the access to those virtual machines, but just for the sake of your knowledge, at the back end they are deploying the virtual machines which is performing the service of gateway. So this is VPN gateway subnet, and here we have VPN gateway which is doing this service. Now if you have to define what it is, now after understanding what it is doing, how can we define? We can simply define an Azure VPN gateway is a type of gateway that allows encrypted traffic to flow between your Azure virtual network and any other virtual any other network, could be on premises or could be uh, Azure Virtual Network as well. You may call it VNet to VNet connectivity, or yeah, that's what we call it, VNet to VNet connectivity. If it is not paired, you can utilize gateway to connect to Azure Virtual Network through gateway so that they can send the encrypted traffic. You may need some kind of compliance, so you'll choose that, right? So for now, I think it is clear what is VPN gateway, right? So just to be clear, VPN gateway is uh, a specific type of gateway that is used to send and receive encrypted traffic between Azure Virtual Network and on premises over the public internet. That is VPN gateway. Now, Azure VPN gateway can also be used to connect separate virtual network. For example, we have another Azure Virtual Network here. Okay, this is Azure Virtual Network. Okay, I should, just to make it a little interesting, I should make this virtual network here. We have another virtual network, let's suppose here. This is Azure Virtual Network. Now we can also connect these two virtual network through peering that we have already learned, but in this situation we are learning VPN gateway, so we are connecting it through a VPN tunnel again. And this VPN, for to establish this VPN tunnel, here we have VPN gateway on this virtual network, so we need one more device here. So again we will, because this is Azure, so we will deploy Azure VPN gateway on this virtual network as well. So it will be costly from peering because we have to pay for the VPN gateway, and this encrypting decrypting of data is also happening, right? But it is possible. Now this thing is happening on Azure because both the virtual network is on Azure. So what the data is going through where? Here it was going over the internet. This is the internet, right? This is internet. But in case of Azure Virtual Network 1 to Virtual Network 2, let's call it 2 and call it 1. This tunnel is going, this data which is going through this VPN tunnel is going through Microsoft backbone, because these both the virtual network is residing somewhere on the Azure. Okay, good. So this piece is clear. Now, just to be put this VPN gateway in perspective again, this virtual network gateway is composed of more than one or two VM. Okay, let's suppose these are that VPN gateway PM, which is deployed to a specific subnet called the gateway subnet. As we have seen in the previous videos where we were trying to create the subnet virtual network, when we choose the purpose, it will automatically get this gateway subnet with the same name convention and everything. So virtual network gateway VMs host routing tables and run a specific gateway service. These VMs do all that work. You don't have the access to these VM. And these VMs that constitute the gateway are created when you create the virtual network gateway and are managed automatically by Azure, and you do not require any administrative attention. This is for your information. Now, when this VPN gateway is connecting to on-premises router or firewall, let's call it router or firewall here, we need to see the compatibility. This is the on-premises router firewall. Okay, so we also need to see the compatibility with this particular router and firewall, and we do have the list of uh, routers and firewalls which is supported by this VPN gateway. That needs to be we checked. You need to be aware when you create the VPN gateway for your on-premises that whether the on-premises device is supported or not. Right now, we have also created this remote users. So even this VPN gateway also supports the this kind of connectivity. Remote users can also talk to the Azure Virtual Network through the VPN gateway. Yes, they can go through the private space through this VPN gateway, and we call it point to site VPN gateway. Point to site VPN, not gateway. Okay, these are point to site where the remote users are accessing Azure Virtual Network. And this same VPN gateway can cater the entire on-premises along with the remote users as well. You need not to deploy any other thing or any other device. The same VPN gateway is capable enough to do so. So that means there must be multiple types of VPN gateways, queues, and everything so that we can choose the right one for us. Maybe we do not need that much of throughput. Maybe we do not need that much of performance. We do not need that many tunnels. So yes, that is absolutely correct. So just to be on, keep this in mind, the VPN gateway can help us create site-to-site VPN tunnel, point to site VPN tunnel, and Azure VNet to VNet connectivity as well. It can solve these three purposes. And this gateway can also use for the private connectivity, which is called ExpressRoute. In that situation, we will call it ExpressRoute gateway. But the creation happens from the same page of virtual network gateway. We need to choose the type. I'll show you. I was right here. If you create virtual network gateway type VPN or ExpressRoute. Okay. So everything is eligible for both the gateway. Doesn't matter whether it's VPN or ExpressRoute. Okay. But just to be aware, both gateways are created from the same page, whether it's ExpressRoute or VPN gateway. It is actually, let's call it a gateway. All right. So as of now, I think it is pretty clear what is VPN gateway. Okay. And let's see why we use it. There's a couple of things we are already clear by this particular diagram, but still to keep things in perspective, why we use VPN gateway. The very first thing is for connectivity between two networks, or rather call it secure communication. Why secure? Because we have mentioned encrypted many times. So it encrypts traffic using industry standard IPsec and IKE protocols. IPsec and IKE protocols. So secure communication. That is the first point. Okay, now the second point. What do you think could be the second point? The connectivity, it enables seamless integration of on-premise infrastructure with Azure resources, which is the basic need of it. But along with that, it also provides the remote users through point-to-site connectivity. So we can say connectivity on-prem as well as connectivity on-prem as well as remote users, on-prem and remote users both. Now we can say the third point is cost efficiency, because VPN gateway is a cost effective alternative to a dedicated private circuit like Azure ExpressRoute. So it is cost efficient as well. It is also it also provide you redundancy, and you can choose various ways like active and active passive, those kind of things also. Right now, We could also use VPN gateway not just for the on-premises and remote use in Azure Virtual Network, but if you think if we are designing a DR solution, you can also utilize to ensure secure connectivity for replicating on-premises data to Azure, right? So there is no such, we are doing the connectivity, but the purpose is DR here. So you can think from the that perspective also. All right. Now, these are some good things we keep on talking. It will help us for connectivity, cross region connectivity, secure connectivity, but there must be some limitations, right? So let's see what are the limitations here. Let me call it some limitations so that we can choose wisely when we are planning for VPN gateway. The very first is the performance constraint, because it has limited bandwidth compared to the express route. Why? Because express route is a dedicated line. I'm representing this tunnel as a VPN tunnel, which is encrypted traffic over the internet. But express route tunnel is a hard cable tunnel, right? So you can say it's not always true, but if you compare, it has a performance constraint. Let's call it constraints, not issue, right? Because dedicated line has a better performance, it would be a private connectivity. Second could be because it operates over the public internet, then latency may be higher and less predictable than the private connections like express route. So we can call some latency as well under limitations. Now when we configure it, it requires careful configuration of IP addresses and then security policies, especially in the hybrid scenarios. So management is little there, which is not kind of limitation, but you need to be aware. A lot of things we need to check and select. We'll show you when we will configure one under this page right here. We have to select the gateway, this queue, the generation, IP, second IP, we have this active mode, right? A lot of things we need to be aware, and of course the IP range, because non-overlapping IP range is needed so that they can talk to each other. Now we also need to be aware of the cost, because cost is based on the gateway SKUs, that the SKU that we will select as per the requirement of throughput, right, or the number of tunnels. So amount of data transferred is basically the throughput, which can add up a high traffic environment. So cost is something that we should be aware of. And there's one more limitation. It only supports IPsec or IKE for encrypted traffic. And there are connection limits as well. Connection limits. Like if you are choosing normal, then like standard VPN gateway would have 30 connections, like 30 tunnels is possible, right? So you have to choose wisely. All right, so let's quickly go through the various configurations of VPN gateway. The things or the factors that we should consider while choosing the correct VPN gateway and configuring with the right settings. Okay, so what are those? The very first is, if we go here, the very first thing is gateway type. For example, let's suppose we are doing site-to-site connectivity. So VPN is the correct gateway that we are choosing. The second one is this SKU. There are so many SKUs available. Now, what are the things that we should be thinking from the configuration and the choice of VPN gateway perspective? The very first is VPN type that we chose was the VPN instead of ExpressRoute. So this is the first setting. The second is SKU, right? SKU. Now this gateway SKU we select depends on the throughput. So this is directly proportional to throughput. Now if you are wondering what is throughput, it is more or less like, let's suppose a business running a backup solution which require 500 Mbps should select at least VPN gateway with some high performance or high SKU which supports up to 1 Gbps throughput. And if you are choosing basic, which is like maximum 100 Mbps of throughput, or could lead to a performance bottlenecks. So we have to define throughput. This refers to the data transfer between your virtual network and other connected networks measured in megabytes or gigabytes. So higher throughput is essential for bandwidth intensive applications like data application, large file transfer, or streaming analytics. So all these queues and their what do we say, throughput information is already provided on the MS Learn. So you can choose as per you can choose this queue as per the requirement of your throughput. The third is we should be aware of the device compatibility that I have already told you. Let's suppose a hospital using a Cisco ASA firewall must verify that it supports IKE v2 and it is configured correctly for site-to-site VPN Azure, because incompatibility can lead to failed connections or limited functionality. So the on-premises VPN device must be compatible with Azure VPN Gateway, which supports IPsec or IKE protocols. Right. So device compatibility. Now another point is connections. Right. So this SKUs also depends on number of connections, as we have already mentioned. Uh, we have a limit of 30 connections on one SKU. We have I'll show you the entire table. So and point to site and site to site have different configuration limits and use cases. VPN gateway SKU limits the number of connections supported. For example, a company with 100 remote workers point to site would choose a VPN gateway SKU that supports at least 100 simultaneous connections. And for site to site, the number of tunnels and throughput requirements will determine the appropriate SKU. So it is like that. So you should be aware of the connections required before you select the gateway or deploy the gateway. Another thing is, this was all discussion on the SKU. Now there is one more thing, which is okay. When we select this, we need to select the subnet, as I told you already. So there is one more thing, the type of VPN gateway, which is not there anymore, but I'm just wanted to provide you that information. VPN gateway type, okay, which is route based or policy based. So there is something called VPN gateway type, route based or policy based. Route based simply means supporting multiple tunnels and dynamic routing, and policy based means single tunnel and it is less flexible, which is the old way of doing it. In the classic way, it was there. So route-based gateway are recommended for most scenarios due to their flexibility and compatibility. For example, a logistic company with multiple branch offices should use a route-based VPN gateway to manage dynamic routing between branches and Azure. Policy basis single tunnel. Now, if you deploy the basic one, which means you cannot upgrade it, you have to delete it and recreate it. But if you are deploying through this SKU of VPN gateway 1, 2, 3, 4, then it can be upgraded as per the requirement. All right. Now, there is one more thing. We can enable active tunnel as well by utilizing one public IP or more than one public IP addresses, as you can see here. Right, assignment type static. This is for the public IP addresses. Now, enable active activity is enabled. You can disable it as well. If you're disabling it, then we only need the one public IP. If you enable it, we need two public IP, one secondary for the secondary tunnel, and we also need to configure the BGP if you'd like, with all this information. So these are all the information that we need to provide when we enable the BGP. But that's an advanced configuration. For now, I think we are pretty good. We are pretty tight with VPN gateway. What is VPN gateway? Why we use it? What are the features? What are the limitations? And what are the things we should be aware of when we are designing it? So that's all about it. And let's conclude it by saying few things like when planning for an Azure VPN gateway, it's critical to assess your organization's needs for throughput, connection type, device compatibility, and redundancy. By evaluating these factors carefully, you can select the most suitable gateway type and SKU to ensure optimal performance, security, and cost efficiency. With this, let's end the video, and in next video, we'll try to explore either VPN gateway further or a new topic. Let's see. Thank you for watching, and you guys have a wonderful